Morning, everyone. Monday morning, beautiful, chilly day. Okay, I wanted to take a minute and make a video today to talk about high ankle sprains and how they affect your hip, or I guess the video could also be about how an instability in your hip can actually cause ankle sprains. So when I see people talking about rehabilitation through their ankle or having issues through their foot, they always talk about taping up the foot, trying to regain that ankle stability by working on the actual mechanics of the ankle. But what I'm seeing is that a lot of people who have these ankle issues, it actually stems from the hip. But since I see them post-injury, it could also be that because of the ankle injury, now that their hip is affected. So what I mean by that is usually if someone comes in and they've had an ankle injury that they've had for a few months or even a few years that is just not really getting any better, I'll look at their gait and I'll watch them walk. And what tends to happen is they tend to have a little more lift on one side, even if they don't notice it as much, or they'll kind of swing that leg out a little bit, because I'm finding a lot of people that have an issue with the ankle, they drop. They drop to that one side, and they tend to hang a little bit more off glute med, off the side of the hip, as opposed to using their glutes for full hip extension. So I'll show you what that means, because these are just words and they're stupid. Watch my butt. I'm gonna go for a walk. So from here, I'm gonna walk and say it was the right leg, this one. This is the one that's the injured foot. This could be months later. I see them walking, and instead of a nice, clean hip extension back behind the body, they tend to have a little more of a lift this way. And they rock side to side. And they rock. Not as obvious and exaggerated as that, but it does happen. So the way that's kind of negatively affects their body is they'll get back to running. Say if running's their sport, they'll get back to running and they'll start running more and more. And if they have that kind of instability when they're walking, imagine a more impact-based activity like running and how that's going to affect them. So the ankle stays injured. The ankle always hurts because they're not addressing the actual issue, which is up through the hip, not creating that good stability. Because every time you pound through that ankle, you're going to create more instability, and that ankle's not going to be kind of stuck and strong. So we can attack this a few different ways. Really hammering on glute strength, really working on single leg stability exercises, which focus more on the glutes. So instead of doing standing single leg exercises where your weight is forward, you're working on more quad-based movements. Instead, sitting back, had a few drinks this morning, sitting back on that heel, working on doing more reaches, working on even sitting back a little into a pistol, getting the glutes to fire a little bit more as opposed to just hanging out on the quads and the calf. Because these are your primary knee stabilizer, which is going to work to stabilize the hip as well. So even doing exercises as simple as holding onto a band, and normally if you're doing your rows, stand on one leg. Stand on one leg, do your rows this way. Keep your weight on your heel. You're challenging your balance while working on stability through your glutes and your ankle at the same time. And then you can change even into little bit bounds this way, working on getting the glutes to fire. There are a lot of different ways to attack it, but really the point of this video is to say that a lot of your high ankle sprains may not actually have been an issue of your ankle. It could have been an instability through the hip that caused you to roll onto that ankle. And the more you try to rehabilitate that ankle, if you aren't taking care of the source up at the hip, then it's all in vain.